Hi everyone. Today I'm gonna be talking about naturalism. What is naturalism, and what are some of the elements that we find in naturalism, illustrated from Jude the Obscure. So, without any further ado, let's get into the presentation. Naturalism is a literary movement which seeks to depict reality in a more scientific way in order to level up the degree of truthfulness and verisimilitude present in most naturalist works, and make the description of everyday life seem as objective as possible. Um, Unlike realism, naturalism has this pessimistic vision of the world, in which characters are not a product of their own, but the product of a number of, external factors, which come and play a huge role in determining the quality of life of these of the characters. Among some of the external factors which we can find in naturalists' works and characters, we can mention heredity, fate, environment, milieu, etc. For naturalists, the fact that people's lives are determined in advance by natural forces, and can neither be changed or avoided, makes the chance for a concept as abstract as free will to exist very small. As naturalists do not agree with the concept of free will, most of their characters are never really responsible for their misery and little chance in life, and incapability of realizing their dreams. Jude the Obscure by Thomas Hardy is one of the most famous novels written by a naturalist writer. Being harshly criticized for its uncommon description of marriage life and sex, Thomas Hardy promised himself that this would be his last novel, and that he would, for the rest of his life, focus on writing only poems. The story talks about the unfortunate life of the protagonist, Jude, who works as, stonemason in a small English village. Jude's misfortunes, both in love and life, are mostly caused by his family and the woman he has fallen in love with throughout his life, and who have for multiple times prevented him from reaching many of his goals, dreams, and desires. Among the themes of naturalism that we mentioned above, we can without hesitation, label Jude the Obscure as a naturalist novel, as it happens to include, many elements of naturalism, especially environment, heredity, fate, between brackets, determinism. Now, before we start looking for elements of naturalism in Jude the Obscure, I would like first to give you their definitions. So, what is faith? What is heredity? And what is environment? Now, before I start, giving you some important realist themes that we find in Jude the Obscure, I would like first to explain two or three word terms or concept. First, we have environment. The environment, it represents the place in which the character lives, and which influences him. The second term is heredity. It refers to the passing of one physical or mental characteristic from one generation to another. Usually, heredity influences the behavior and the psychological inclinations of the characters. So the last term or concept, I would rather say term, we have fate. Fate means it is when events, happen outside of one's control. These events are usually said to be predetermined by like a higher force or power. Um, when it comes to heredity, the novel has many instances where the heredity of the protagonist is shown. For example, the love of reading Jude has, he most probably inherited it from his family. Many elements in the story refers to how obsessed some of his family members were with reading grammar books of sorry, of Latin and Greek languages. We can also note that the departure of his favorite teacher, I think, and he moved to another city, to I think called the city or town is called Christminster. It left a huge mark on him, as it made him love reading even more, to the point where it became his most favorite activity, like an activity which took a lot of his time. Another important thing to mention, um, Jude's aunt, the person who took care of the upbringing and education of Jude after his two parents died when he was very young, often states how unsuccessful in life Jude will be, and that the part of him that is sad is there to remind him of the desolation he feels, and which, according to his aunt, again, is hereditary. Sorry, Harry. It's a difficult word. Another information Jude gets from his aunt is the bad luck his ancestors had with love, and which was passed down to him. And this can be seen in his disastrous, relationship with Arabella, which was everything but based on true love, but rather on lies and tricks. Arabella played on Jude in order to have him say yes to everything she wanted. Also, Jude's cousin Sue seems to be doomed as well, in choosing the wrong partner for her, as she married, a man she didn't like, and which marriage ended in a divorce. Um, Next we have fate. When it comes to fate, fate is very present throughout the story. Many dreams and desires of Jude become meaningless, as he ages. Many events will come and disturb, I think, his future plans, such as his encounter with his first wife, Arabella, a young girl who is often described to us as being the complete opposite of Jude, as she is strong, passionate, adventurous, and also a girl, coming from a family of pig slaughters. Okay, so she's totally different from Jude. Okay, they have nothing in common. Okay, so before Jude met Arabella, we know that he was working hard to move to Christminster and be admitted in one of Christminster's best universities. However, since he met Arabella, all he wanted was, to spend all of his time with her, to the point where he totally forgot all about what was important to him, including his studies and him moving to Christminster. Arabella, being arrogant and selfish, went as far as pretended to be pregnant in order to have Jude, propose to her, and even, have him propose to her and marry her. Being aware of his shattered dreams, Jude agrees to marry Arabella right away. A little while later, however, Jude becomes aware of how different he is from Arabella in terms of, personality, in terms of character, and how little in common they have. He felt that their relationship was not built on true love, and when Arabella, told him the news about the pregnancy, Jude became depressed. This was, I think, this end, was the cause of their separation. After, the failure of his relationship with Arabella, Jude reminded himself of his first dream, which was to enter prestigious school in Christminster. His dream, however, was crushed down by fate again, when he received, a letter from the university, which, said that his profile was not what they were looking for. his profile, was refused. So Jude got, to get later in the story, Jude got together with his cousin. Remember that the two are cursed in love, since they both come from the same family, and we know that their family is cursed when it comes to love. So when Jude got together with his cousin Sue, the two, we learned that the two are truly in love, and that their bond is stronger than any marriage contracts. As a result, Sue always rejects, the idea of marrying Jude. However, their unusual incestual relationship made the people around them talk. Being constantly the center of people's attention and conversations made the two lovers adopt a nomadic style of life, where they would constantly move from one place to another, but where they would always be met with the same cold and harsh atmosphere they have always been met with. To add more to their misfortune, Jude and Sue had many children together. In addition, to Jude's child from his previous marriage, a boy, a son, named Little Father Time. The family was very poor and could barely, afford a normal way of life. Little Father Time, being, a very sensitive child, always felt responsible for the fate of his family and the poverty they were in. And in a conversation he had with his mother-in-law, he confessed, his desire to be dead. As for him, children should be killed rather than live under such conditions. Unfortunately, on a cold, chilly morning, Jude and Sue returned home just to find the dead bodies of all their children lying on the floor. After that incident, Sue felt so sad and responsible for the death of her children, and started to question her relationship with her cousin, which she thought was. She started to think that their relationship was impious. Feeling guilty, Sue finally decides to leave Jude and remarry her ex-husband, Richard, whose dislike for him made her divorce him once, by the way. When it comes to Jude, the departure of Sue made him depressed again and caught in the trap of fate of Arabella, who made him marry her again. This time, however, things were different, as Arabella did not treat Jude well, and she let him lead a miserable life. After a while, Jude returned to see Sue for one very last time. The two had a nice moment together, filled with joy, and the love the two had for each other seemed still very much present. However, it was impossible for Jude and Sue to, get back together. Okay. After the moment they spent together, Jude died. He died, according to the way naturalist protagonists die, neither as a hero nor as someone who fulfilled his dreams and desires, and of course someone who was miserable for their whole, entire life.